Welcome to the Mountaintop Joiner Shop. This will be the fourth installment of my tooled cabinet tour, and I'll be talking about everything that's in the left-hand door. It's all my measuring and marking tools. Enjoy. So for this episode of my tooled cabinet tour video series thing, I'm doing the left-hand door. As you can see, I got it all emptied out so you can see how the tool holders are shaped, how they play with each other, and of course you will see how the tools fit into them and what tools I have. This is the side of the cabinet where I keep kind of my measuring and marking tools. They're all grouped in here. And one thing about those is they tend to be straight or square, very rectilinear tools. And I want to counteract that by putting some angles in here and some curves. So there's a lot of sapele with curly maple kind of drop finials or kind of icicles going on in here. Lots of little ledges and of course magnets to help hold things in place. The first tool I'm going to start with is a shop-made one. This is a beam for two tools actually. So one of those is my panel gauge. I made the body of this panel gauge out of some scrap wood, and you can see it has kind of a funny shape to it because that's how I roll, I guess. And that slides on there. I have a little thumb screw that tightens it down here. And I put a pencil on this side, and that's how I run my panel gauge. So that fits over there, like so. And then when I'm done with it, I actually stick it right onto this sapele tab right here. And that's where that fits. This is also a tool that I can use as a trammel. So I have a pair of trammel points here. I actually bought these from the guy who made them in his shop at the Rocky Mountain Tool Collectors Association meeting. And these are bronze with steel points on them. And those also are designed to fit right over this beam, like so. And of course you get one at the other end, and then you can draw your circles with that. These guys fit into just a little hole right down here, right next to each other, like so. And then the beam itself fits into a little tab at the bottom here to keep it from swinging around, and it fits over a brass plug that's sapele infilled, and it's backed by a little leather pad as well, and it just fits right in there like that. Just below the body of the panel gauge, I have a spot for two sliding bevels. One of them is this blue spruce sliding bevel that I ordered custom. This is a Cocobolo infill with kind of a black body on it and stainless knobs. That goes right into this recess. It fits over the shoulder. There's a tab that sticks out made of sapele that fits through the slot, and behind that is a capture magnet. That just fits there like that. And then I have a smaller version of the same thing. I think that's a 7-inch, 6 or 7 inch, and I think that's a 4-inch for this guy. And there's another infill, but it's actually that might be Bubinga, and this one's Cocobolo. Sorry about that. But this goes in there the same way this one does, just like that. That's where that goes. I have a little hole here with kind of a brass peg there that holds my little blade bevel gauge. It's kind of a neat looking tool. I really should have this over here where my sharpening station is, but it looks neat, so I decided I would put it in there, just like that. These two little kind of blade-shaped hooks are for these two tools. This is the Bridge City Tool Works Kerf Maker, the KM1. That little guy goes like this. And this one is the Bridge City Tool Works Tenon Maker, and that one hangs on it the same way, just like that. I don't use these a ton because I don't have a lot of machines. I don't have a table saw or router table or any of that. So I don't use them a ton, but someday I might have those tools, so that's where I have those stored for now. Next to that, I have this kind of arch-shaped gap right here, and that is for this bevel angle setter from Veritas Tools. And this is a pretty handy tool for resetting a sliding bevel like that. And that just fits right over this curly maple kind of thing that sticks out, and I think it looks nice there. Here I have these two kind of 45-degree angled slots. Those are for my squares, my sliding squares. So this is a Starrett, and this is a 150 mil square. And next to that, I have the 300 mil version. Goes right there. That's right. I am in the US, but I work in metric because Imperial, I'm not very arithmetically inclined, we'll say, and Imperial makes a heck of a lot more sense to me. And I've used it in the past when I was a professional bike fitter. I'm not completely unfamiliar from metric from that experience, so I switched to metric a few years ago, and I'm glad I did. It's so much better. But I digress. So I got a little engineer square that just little fits into this little slot right here. And I'm right-handed, so this is kind of awkward. Normally I would stand over there and do it, but then I got my back to the camera, so forgive me if this looks a little bit awkward. Here I have my little Sterling Toolworks dovetail square. This thing is invaluable when you're hand cutting your dovetails. It allows you to check them and make sure that your sawing isn't out of kilter. And that guy goes right there. Up here I have two little recesses that are backed by brass, and behind that brass is a hidden magnet. And that's where my two marking knives go. I have a Vesper one that I bought from Chris Vesper in person. I believe I bought it from him at Handworks in 2015. Either that or WIA in 2015. I attended both of those events and met some of these tool makers personally at those places. That goes right there like that. This one here is a Chuck Edge marking knife. I like this one for transferring my marks in between tails when I'm doing dovetails. That one fits places where other marking knives cannot. Here I have another magnet with a kind of a slot behind it. That is for this guy. This is the Incra T-Rule. This works with a 0.5 mil mechanical pencil, and you can use it much like a panel gauge, or a very small scale panel gauge, and it's accurate down to the 1/4 of a millimeter. This thing is awesome. It's kind of an unsung hero of my shop, and even though it's red anodized and it kind of clashes with the tool cabinet a little bit, I put it in here because I want to keep it safe, because I love that tool and I don't want to mess it up. So below that, I have kind of an arch kind of framing in these two tool holders here. These are for things like dividers. I have an old pair of 11-inch dividers. Fits over this kind of wedge shape, and there's a magnet right behind the pivot point right there. Similar deal with this one. This is a one I got from Lee Valley Tools. This is a 9-inch divider. Again, fits over a wedge, magnet behind the pivot. Back here, from the same maker, I believe. These are both from France and from Lee Valley. And this one is a compass. That one goes right there. And here I have a smaller pair of dividers. I think these are 4-inch dividers. I don't even know what the make of this is. I think it says Milger and Sons. Hilger and Sons. And this is cast steel. It's apparently a quite old pair of dividers, and these were given to me. They have a kind of little crescent moon shape on the knob there. These were given to me by a friend and co-worker whose dad passed away, and he had collected a bunch of woodworking tools, and he knew how into hand tool woodworking I was, so he passed them along to me. So these are of kind of a special vintage, and one of my more cherished vintage tools, because it's quite handy. Here I have a scratch awl that I actually turned into a birdcage awl by sharpening it to a point with 4 facets on it. So when I'm starting a screw, I'll actually start that screw hole with this guy to kind of mark its location. This tool is by General Tools, and I got it for like $7 and just took it to a grinder and turned it into a birdcage awl. And that's handy for drilling operations. In front of that, I have some pieces of my Veritas bar gauge. These ones have these little kind of umbrella shaped ends on them, which I think have kind of a nice little decorative look to them. So I put those up front and center down here like this. And there's actually holes at the bottom of these holes that I can use to kind of thread these in, which there's not much point to, but I can if I want. It makes them super secure. Under here, you'll see there's kind of these cutouts. That's where I keep all my dovetail marker from Veritas Tools. This one is a 14 degree, which on those rare occasions when I work in a really soft wood, I'll use a 14 degree, like pine or something. This is a 1x6 Veritas dovetail marker. Goes right there. That's the one I use the most, actually. For all of my hand dovetailing, I almost always use 1x6. And this one's a 1x8. Same deal. And then if I want to fish it out of there, I just reach into that recess and grab it. And you'll see that the points of my trammel points actually fit in between each of the dovetail markers. So that's a pretty efficient use of space right there. Over here I have a series of holes that are for my my marking gauges. This one is for marking mortises, so it's got your double rod there, and that guy fits right there. I don't do a ton of mortising, and when I do, I don't always use that marking gauge, but it's nice to have it sometimes. Over to the right here, I have just a standard wheel marking gauge. All these marking gauges are from Veritas, by the way. And then the one that goes front and center is the one you probably just heard hit the floor. That is this guy here. This is a micro adjustable marking gauge from Veritas, and this is the one I use the most. I really like that feature of it. They actually changed the design of that tool after I've gotten this one, and I don't know that it's any better. This works great, so I don't know why they changed it. But and then there's one last tool that fits right down in this little corner here. That is the actual bar gauge. Now you've seen a couple times the bar extensions for this. Well, this is the actual bar gauge, and this is where it ended up. And this one has a little ball end tips on it, and just fits into a hole right there against the wall. And you can see that all these together kind of make a cool decorative flourish as well. So that is the left-hand side of my tool cabinet. There's only one more episode to go, and that would be the base. The shape of the base, the drawers, and what's in the drawers, that kind of thing. Oh, I almost forgot something. Look. So this here is a scratch awl from Bontz Sawworks. When I ordered my custom dovetail saw, he sent me one of these. And I used to have a mechanical pencil in this spot right here, but I've since replaced it with that tool because it is so much nicer than a mechanical pencil, and it just happens to fit in there quite nicely. So that's it. That's the left-hand side. We'll talk about the base next. Appreciate you watching. Now, if you like what you saw here, please hit like and subscribe. It helped me out a lot. Also hit the little bell icon if you want to be notified anytime I release a new video. And if you didn't like what you saw here, keep it to yourself, pal. Or watch one of my other videos. You might like one of those. Thank you for watching.